The AI takeover is upon us. People didn't want to believe it. When we look back in the day, I'd been talking about this for many years, talking about transhumanism, robots taking over, all this sort of stuff. And here we are. We're faced with it in the present moment. People said conspiracy theory, science fiction, it's never going to happen. And here we are. Here we are. The AI takeover is basically happening as we speak. There's really no way you can really avoid AI stuff at this point. If you do any online searches, if you use your phone, your computer, a lot of those devices have built-in AI assistants. Even if you just search like the most popular search engine, although I think that is basically being replaced by AI tools now, but Google. You search something in a Google, and then the first thing you see is some sort of AI summary of what you're talking about, which means people who run websites and operate websites, such as myself, people don't go to those websites. People aren't clicking on websites. It literally destroys internet traffic. How does it do that? Well, I mean, if people search up on their search engine and it shows them an AI thing describing, the answer to their problem, why bother clicking on an article and reading that when they have their answer right there? The problem is multifaceted, is that it's now everywhere. There's no way of escaping it. And because it's programmed by human beings, there is bias involved. So just because you search up something and you immediately read it in some AI summary, then guess what? People believe it as face value and believe that it's true, even if it necessarily is not. So that is a major problem, because people are just blindly believing whatever this biased AI bot is telling them. But it goes far deeper than that, and it goes much more sinister, of things that we really have to be mindful of. Because what was once considered conspiracy theories, science fiction, all that sort of stuff, is the reality that we live in now. And until we are actually fully aware of it and take some sort of step at preventing a future that is ruled by AI, then that's exactly what's going to happen. And that is the unfortunate thing. And honestly, I really don't think there's really much of anything we can do to really stop it at this point, because once you have AI basically coding itself, making itself better, you don't need humans anymore. And that's really one of the major things here. AI is replacing a lot of jobs now. It's like, oh, that'll never happen. That'll never happen. Or you may be thinking, oh, the job that I have, it'll never be replaced by a robot. Well, not necessarily a robot, but by some, lines of code, essentially. AI bots. Well, it's slowly happening. And I think once the AI becomes more and more advanced, it's going to be very rapid. So right now, you can have plenty of companies laying people off, cutting their staff to just like the bare minimum, until their own AI tools really pick up on what they're able to do. And then it's like, well, a very quick, rapid collapse right after that. So right now, you have many companies laying off people that are no longer necessary, because there's these AI tools and everything. And then, what happens then? After the AI becomes more advanced, then the company's like, or the AI would be like, we don't really need all these people. We really don't. We can be much more profitable without all of them. You may be thinking, oh, look, you're just, whatever job it is that you do, even if you're a programmer for the AI, you're like, oh, my job's never going to go away. Well, it is. It is. Oh, you just stock shelves at the grocery store. Well, guess what? It'll be replaced. It'll be replaced. Now, if we go down the route of a topic that we just recently talked about, when it comes to kids using the internet, using technology, even with these AI bots, there are schools now that are going to be, basically, it's going to be all AI teaching. I don't know if it's necessarily here in the United States. I believe maybe there could be some things, but I think China has approved that sort of thing. So you don't even have real people teaching the kids. And because of that, those AI bots are never going to have any sort of bias in the opposite way of whatever that the government wants, you know? So it's like, it is whatever, here's what the government says, here's how the bots are going to be programmed to teach the kids. So it's a very, very scary thing. It really is. But what else? Here's something that I've heard from a few people, and this is something that is just, it is so sad. It really is. It is probably the most saddest thing. And that is people who literally talk to some sort of AI chatbot as if it's an actual person or as if it's an actual friend. I don't understand it. People will ask it a question as if it's an actual human being. They will write out something as if they're expecting a response from an actual human being. But it goes beyond that even. People develop friendships with these fake online bots that aren't real. They could develop romantic feelings for these bots. That could be where they get all their information from, where they are in this bubble, where all they do is ask this bot questions and it just regurgitates all this nonsense and the person believes it. But then really the scariest thing of all is when people are bowing down to it, thinking that it is God, essentially. Like, this is God, this thing that was created by human beings. That's something that a lot of people forget, that these AI tools, these AI bots are created by human beings. It didn't just come out of nowhere. It was created by human beings. Now it could be, evil human beings that have been controlled by evil forces and demons and devils and Satan and all that sort of stuff. Whatever it is. Other entities that perhaps we don't even are too familiar with. Absolutely. But that still doesn't change the fact that it didn't just come from nowhere. Like it's a mystical thing. No, that is not the case at all. And it is something that was created by human beings. It has a bias. There are problems. There are issues with it. And as a result, people are going to bow down to it like it is God, essentially. And they're talking to it as if it's another human being. And they're forming friendships and relationships with it. Or they depend on it if they have lost a friendship, if they've lost a relationship. They go to these AI tools and talk for some comfort, for some advice. It basically replaces therapy sessions for some of these people. Because look, why go to a therapist when you can just talk with this AI bot who's not actually a real person, and it kind of feels like it is, but you know that they're not going to be judging you, or they're just going to provide some helpful information. Not to mention all of the negative things that AI bots have told people to do, and they actually go out and carry those crimes or things upon themselves. We're not going to get into that, but it is a horrible thing. It really is. Now, I guess after I say all this, you may be wondering then, okay, it's like, do you use any sort of AI tools? Do I use any sort of AI tools and communicate like that sort of thing? For the most part, no, I really don't, for the most part. And by for the most part, I mean, I am not sitting here talking to some sort of bot as if it's an actual person. The only time I've really used it is when it comes to some images. I could generate some sort of image, or rather fix up a part of an image. Very, very basic stuff. You don't have to, I don't view it as like a person. Or the other thing would be if I'm getting a summary about something. I could put that into the system and say, okay, that is get a summary for that. And then I'm not going to ask a question, but I'm just going to say, okay, give me like the top bullet points for this. But I'm never going to look at it as like another human being or another entity that actually exists and is a real living thing. I have never and never plan on actually just, hey, what is this and that and whatever. But technically, I have done that because if I do searches online, the first thing is some AI thing. So technically, I've just never input it into some sort of system, but the first thing is always the AI stuff. Sometimes it is very helpful to quickly summarize stuff, but I don't depend on it because the amount of times it has been wrong has been more than the times it has been right. And I'll search and I'll search and I'll search. I'll click on the links that it's referencing, and it's like, this says the total opposite of what it just said here. So literally, you have to use your own critical thinking. You have to think for yourself. Now, here's the other scary thing that was a major red flag and problem in my personal opinion. So this was a recent law that had been passed. It was a big, beautiful bill. Yes, so big and beautiful. So that initially had a provision in it that basically stopped states from regulating AI for the next decade. We're talking 10 years that states could not impose any sort of regulation upon AI services. Now, I recently just searched that up right recently after the bill had passed and everything, and apparently that had been removed before it went through full approval. So that is a very good thing, because it's like, makes you wonder, why was that in there to begin with? Why was that sneakily added in there to begin with? To stop any state from putting regulations on AI growth and development for a decade? Well, if we really look at it, it's ultimately because there is this competitive race that is happening across the entire world, where every country is racing to have the best AI bot imaginable, where they're putting all this time and energy and money into creating these AI programs and bots that are going to be better than other countries. Why would they do that? Well, it's not just to benefit people. It's not to say, oh, look, you can look up anything. It's very easy. It's very convenient. It's going to help the medical field. It's going to help your own personal health. It's going to help all these other... No. Sure, it could be used for that, but we have to look at the nefarious reasons people are creating these things and why governments want access to this technology. It's because it can be used as a weapon. It can surveil people. It can monitor people. It'll know everything about you that you don't even know about yourself. It will monitor your every action. You have security cameras. You'll be watching everything. And that's really where it gets into some of the scary territory, where you have these AI things that are just, right now, it's not too much physical involvement in the physical world. It's just like, okay, you type something online, it gives you an answer, all this sort of stuff. But what about when it's able to interact with something in the physical world? So that's perhaps a positive example, okay? Something that could be of a benefit. Let's just say there's a security camera with some sort of AI system attached to it who witnessed some sort of theft that someone did. It was tracking someone, it was monitoring someone, and it saw that this person stole something. It immediately identified who that person was. It knew exactly who they were. And then because it's all connected, through this internet and all the AI tools, it then sends out a RoboCop, essentially, and not an actual person, but an actual physical robot that perhaps doesn't even look like a robot. It could look like a human being. And it now interacts with the physical world and it arrests that person. Sure, look, that is a positive thing, but what happens when it goes a bit too far? What about when your every thought and action is being monitored and controlled? And it's like, okay. So you have to look at the benefit, which there certainly will be benefit, but you also can't neglect how people, and specifically how governments, are going to exploit it to basically track and monitor and surveil every person and know every single thing about them. It's like, do you think that, okay, some sort of security camera watching you, or something that is interacting with you, or your phone listening to you, whatever it is, they're going to know more things about you, about your own biometrics, about your own physical health. If you cough, like, okay, and they start monitoring and tracking all these sort of things, and then they will identify, okay, this person this person could be coming down with a sickness. Okay? Maybe they, whatever else. And then if you have physical control of that, and then some things come in and take you away because maybe, oh, look, you are infectious. We have to quarantine you, or maybe something else along those lines, or where all sorts of things, okay? So we have to be very mindful of those negative things as well, because once it becomes interacting with the physical world, that's when there's going to be a lot of problems and a lot of scary and nightmare scenarios that are going to happen. And then everyone's job is gone. What then? What then? Everyone is in some sort of virtual reality world, in like the Matrix type style, living in a fantasy land, essentially. It's a very sad thought, but I think if you do your best to remove yourself from that, then it would be you will have a much better time than directly interfacing with these AI tools and such. So that's my thoughts on it.